XRP. Finally, we have more news from the CEO of Grayscale, which is one of them posting the ETFs. We were waiting for this quite some time, actually, weren't we? The ETFs are like the main driver for XRP. They are one of the main drivers for crypto to go up, really, and especially XRP itself. So, yeah, it is very important to say that XRP has been doing well, but this is the one that will really change everything.
Yeah, $100,000 per coin yet. I get it, okay? But what I'm going to show you guys in today's video is a little bit of clarity for a lot of you, a lot of good news for all of you other guys who are just waiting for the good times to start rolling again.
So yeah, fair to say what happened with Bitcoin's prices and Ethereum's prices when they went up is they immediately exploded. It's a very, very big price change that people don't realize here right now. So yeah, just let that sink in.
You guys, a lot of you understand now, crypto comes in ebbs and flows. And I think that a lot of you guys need to get ready because there are a lot of people that are backing XRP in a massive way, and we have dates, okay? We have specific dates. And I want to show you guys these dates, and I want to show you what these particular dates actually mean. The SEC is currently pushing the spot XRP ETF decisions into October, in case you guys missed that.
This is what I told you guys.
The final deadlines are as follows. For Grayscale, October 18th. For 21 shares, October 19th. For Bitwise, October 20th. For Canary Capital and Wisdom Tree, October 24 and 25.
So yeah, each day is going to be like more news. Look at that. Each day we're going to have more news. As I told you guys, October there's going to be something 19th, 20th, 18th.
Respectively. So this is something that I think a lot of you guys need to remind yourselves of. XRP ETFs are probably the largest catalyst that will actually be driving volume that we have received so far. I mean, think about it. The SEC case ending, we all knew that was coming. I don't know why people expected that to absolutely blow up the price of XRP overnight to $10 per coin. That was just unrealistic. Everybody already knew that the case was ending. It was majority already priced in. And yes, we did get a nice pump on that day, up 10% while the rest of the market was basically flatlining. That is pretty solid stuff. But actual capital and liquidity overnight to coming into XRP in the form of these ETFs is undoubtedly going to be insane. And so I
feel like the ETFs, you know, it's not going to happen $10, but $4, like pushing to $4, at least being a catalyst to something is pretty realistic.
I started asking Grok a number of different questions just about for like the inflows that came in from XRP ETFs and what this means, how much volume we could potentially see, how much volume came in total between all of these different companies for Bitcoin ETFs, so we can kind of get an idea. And you can see the total amount of inflows that came in was ranging somewhere between 7 to 15 billion. It's actually probably closer to about 20 billion because BlackRock alone had 20 billion of inflows. And you can see right here, Grayscale was only...
So BlackRock posting this is what I've been calling, guys. I said BlackRock will hold XRP's 80% of the volume. This basically proves my theory because all of these exchanges pushed in October. We need BlackRock, guys. This is the most important one. See how much inflows are for Bitcoin? Same is going to be for XRP. So if we can get BlackRock, we can probably get more of them.
The only negative one right here with negative outflows, potentially between 1 to 5 billion. But yeah, the Grok estimates it's between 7 to 15 billion. I do believe it's actually closer to 20 billion because I know Grayscale's negative outflows were not around 5 billion. That's just way too high. And so, yeah, I mean, around 20 billion of inflows is basically what Bitcoin got.
I'm pretty sure they were selling because of what happened 10 years ago in Bitcoin. Like Grayscale was holding that. That's why they sold so much. So posting on Grayscale doesn't mean Ethereum XRP will go negative.
Around 20 billion of inflows is basically what Bitcoin got. Now, I also want to talk about how much Bitcoin's market cap grew during the period of time that these spot ETFs were available, because this is probably the most important thing. It's the snowball effect. Yes, the volume is great, but it's how much retail adoption, how many more people are becoming aware about Bitcoin. That's the most important. And also all of the institutions that are now buying more Bitcoin because they see these ETFs actually becoming available. These are all really important things. when we look.
So yeah, I feel like a lot of retail will also come once we get the new government update. We've been all waiting for that. The Crypto Clarity Act is where the majority of retail investors, in my opinion, are going to be coming in. It's not just the ETFs. There is tons of stuff happening in October and November potentially.
Look at the available data. We can see that Bitcoin's price was on January 1st of 2024, when these ETFs were just being introduced, was about 43,600 per coin, right? We fast forward all the way over to today, and we can see that the market cap growth is insane. January 2024 market cap for Bitcoin was below 1 trillion at 854 billion. August 19th, 2025, we're at $2.29 trillion market cap for Bitcoin with the $114,000 price, which is around what we're at right now. So the growth is as calculated as follows. $1.435 trillion in growth in terms of market cap, or 168% percentage growth.
So he's saying that, crypto will go basically to XRP will see a 168%. Now, I think this is less because Bitcoin has much bigger trading volume. And that's why the growth is going to be much higher on Bitcoin, like in terms of growth of how many inflows you have. People are calling that, XRP is going to go here and there. Who knows at this point? Like they're saying 168%, like we're going to see 1.4 trillion pump.
Just from this period of time for ETFs. And I want to remind you guys once again.
This is what bumped Bitcoin, right? What I'm trying to say is XRP might not have the same pumps because it doesn't have the same trading volume as Bitcoin.
This is for Bitcoin. Just Bitcoin. XRP during the same period of time went from trading at around 40 cents per coin,
450%,
all the way up to where it is right now, very close to $3 per coin. So instead of getting 168% growth, we're looking at nearly 6x, or actually a little bit more than 6x of the growth for XRP. So we're looking at over 600% growth for XRP. Let that sink in. It's actually, with the 40 cent,
that's why a lot of people will go from stocks possibly to crypto. They're much more risky, but they're willing to take that risk. And that's where they go, double down on it. Like XRP being 450% up is literally more than Bitcoin.
Actually, like 700% growth, pretty much. It's just absolutely insane that is what we're seeing right now. Because XRP's current price is 291. That would leave it around that. So about just over 7x growth, 700% growth. And I want to remind you guys once again, ETFs have not even been introduced yet for XRP. And we're clearly seeing the effects of the Ethereum ETFs right now. Ethereum's growth has been meteoric. It's been absolute.
The thing with ETFs, it gives more people who would never bought crypto, is would be buying it now. That's the thing. They would never buy crypto before. They can now buy XRP. So it's potentially new buyers coming in, and we don't know the exact amount, but it's definitely going to be bigger than before.
Exploding. It flew above $4,000 per coin, was, I think, even briefly getting close to $5,000. It was just absolutely exploding in price. And yeah, it's retraced a little bit, but that's normal after a big rally like that. And so I think this sort of perspective right now is really important for a lot of you guys. And there's a lot of other stuff that's going on right now as well. Okay. And so we see that we just got a massive correction, but you look at MicroStrategy, they just bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. We look at SharpLink Gaming, and they just bought $667 million worth of Ethereum.
I feel like these institutions know way more than us. And if we get someone buying XRP on the big with the new ETFs, we could get someone like MicroStrategy at this point buying XRP. So it's not just that, Ethereum now has a buyer. Again, what do these have in common? They all have ETFs, which makes it easier to buy. They bought 667 million.
After this correction, pretty crazy. We also have Treasury Secretary Basant making a ton of statements. He's saying things like crypto stablecoins will expand dollar access for billions of people across the globe. He's just saying it flat out that billions of people are going to be using stablecoins. At the same time, we also have Wyoming becoming the first US state to launch its own stablecoin. Okay? So
Like stable coins and XRP, I would say they're totally separate though.
US states are launching their own stablecoins. Banks are launching their own stablecoins. We have the stablecoin market just growing astronomically right now, going insane. And we have our like top government heads here saying that it's going to be available for billions of people across the globe. Everyone's going to use this.
This is what I've been telling you guys. The new era is when people start using XRP worldwide indirectly, like burning XRP and they don't even know it.
The government wants this. The government wants people to buy US debt, and that's exactly what stablecoins do. They buy treasury bills and they give these massive returns that you would never get from just holding fiat currency. It's a good business model. Stablecoins and cryptocurrency are changing finance forever and actually providing a lot more utility and use case, because guess what? They are actually backed by something, and you actually get something for holding them as the issuer. The company who issues the stablecoins gets the treasuries and gets these bonds and gets to get these returns. So this is why...
I mean, if you hold it in treasury bonds, you're also getting something out of it. The thing is, why governments are using stable coins is because everything can be much faster and much simpler and much cheaper. They finally found a way. That's why they're using XRP, because it only costs a fraction to send something.
Mistake to look at the price of XRP today and think to yourself, wow, this is a bad deal. Oh, I think I should just sell. This is horrible. I think that's silly. I think that's really silly. That's just my opinion, though. That's not financial advice by any means. I just want to show you guys.
So yeah, if they're buying millions and billions and billionaires are buying, this is definitely a very good indicator to, you know, trust the process. I'm going to trust these billionaires. I'm not going to trust someone on, for example, the internet telling me, oh, it's going to go to zero or Bitcoin's going to go to zero. If these billionaires are buying 660 million and they have probably people doing these predictions. So look at this. Tom Lee, my price prediction for XRP just went way up.
Case for ETH is actually higher.
Funds, asset managers, and major investors who see its role extending far beyond speculation. Many experts say $5,000 isn't just possible, it's realistic, especially since Ethereum already brushed 4,000.
I mean, if XRP gains traction with $10 price target in 2025, I don't know if we're going to hit $10 this year. It doesn't have even to be this year. Can be, you know, next year. But all of these top three cryptos, I feel like they're going to be the biggest winners because people are getting tired of the small cap. Look at altcoins. They're still down. It's still not altcoin season.
Last December. The renewed momentum isn't just hype. On-chain data shows transaction volumes and active addresses hitting all-time highs. Developers are pushing network upgrades, the community is buzzing, and adoption is spreading across industries from decentralized finance to stablecoins. Even the regulatory environment, often seen as a stumbling block, may be tilting in Ethereum's favor. Differing from Bitcoin, Ethereum offers something regulators actually want to harness: smart contracts that power decentralized applications and digital finance ecosystems. That makes Ethereum more than just a digital currency. It positions the network as a backbone of future financial infrastructure.
Wouldn't that be same for XRP? XRP is sending millions of transactions and is able to without any cost.
And as Tom Lee points out in a recent interview on crypto, this is likely just the beginning. With Wall Street's deeper involvement and retail energy still strong, Ethereum's growth story has room to run. The question now isn't if Ethereum will climb higher, but how fast it can write the next chapter in crypto history. Let's get right into the latest interview with Tom Lee, as he gives his market prediction for the days and weeks ahead.
MicroStrategy wants to get to at least 1 million Bitcoin, which is about 5%. And keep in mind that once MicroStrategy has 1 million Bitcoin, they have a sovereign put. You know, they are strategically important to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
I feel like someone is going to buy, like, once the ETFs are out, it's my opinion, but someone is going to buy a very big supply of XRP. We're going to see it because ETFs are going to be up. Same has happened with Bitcoin and same has happened with, like, what it's called, S-Link Gaming. Like, they are an Ethereum company. They bought a lot of like 660 million now, and MicroStrategy is buying billions of Bitcoin. So somebody's going to scoop up XRP potentially.
I mean, if the U.S.
when they will be able to. Just my opinion, again.
wants to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's probably difficult for the U.S. to buy 1 million Bitcoin in the open market, because as soon as they announce it, sellers are going to shrink, and Bitcoin could go to $1 million right away. So MicroStrategy might be an easier way for someone to get to 1 million Bitcoin. So I call that a sovereign put. MicroStrategy's achieved the 3% in 5 years. So they were buying basically 16 cents worth of Bitcoin a day, every day for the last 5 years. Bitmine.
Just look at the whales I was telling you guys. Someone is buying a very big supply of XRP. The last few, since like 3 years, since 20 cents, there's been a whale buying the same supply. Same patterns as Bitcoin. It's absolutely crazy.
Bitmine, if you look at it from inception to now, has added about 80 cents to $1 per day in Ethereum. So it's about 12 times faster than MicroStrategy. So we would be on a path to get to 5%, presumably like at 12 times the speed of MicroStrategy. But it makes sense because, we would be a benevolent entity in the sense that we are doing everything 100% compliant with what is the idea of a legally compliant. Ethereum is a legally compliant blockchain.
Same for XRP. That's why XRP is going to work with the banks, because that's like, if you want to grow over $10, you basically have to integrate in the real world. And that's what XRP is pushing for.
Everything that Bitmine is doing is keeping every single piece of the operations in the United States. So it is very compliant to what Wall Street and the US government would want to see in someone who's staking a lot of ETH. And equally important, ETH itself is going to be really where so much of Wall Street financializes on the blockchain. So eventually, I think someone on Twitter made the point that staking ETH for Wall Street is like gamers buying NVIDIA, that you would have done better to buy NVIDIA as well as be a gamer or be a gaming company. It is actually that exact idea that Wall Street is, if they're going to be tokenizing real world assets from money markets to dollars to stocks, that they're going to want to own ETH itself, but then they want whoever's staking it to actually be an entity that is really trying to further the goals of Ethereum. So I think we really serve an important purpose by
the top 3 crypto coins. I feel like those are the ones that are getting the biggest gains now, and those are the ones that are getting pushed later as well. Because why? All of the rich people are buying XRP, they're buying Ethereum, they're buying Bitcoin. So of course they will want it to grow in price. It is like simple math.
Staking ETH. Genius Act, SEC wants to move the financial system onto the blockchain. And Ethereum is the largest blockchain, but it's also compliant with US laws. It's a legally recognized blockchain. But this blockchain, of course, can be used by other countries and other, nations. The US obviously wants to strengthen the US position and dominance on this blockchain. And of course, keep in mind that there's not just one storyline here coming onto Ethereum, it's also AI, right? If you're going to tokenize, whether it's robots or other things, you want a blockchain that also, again, can be secured. So tech and Wall Street are converging onto Ethereum. Does Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan want Ethereum to be held in like millions of different wallets? Not that they're trying to centralize it, but they want to make sure that the staking is done in a compliant way. And not everybody is going to choose to do that. But that's what we said from the beginning, that the idea is that Bitmine has a pristine balance sheet, super clean. no.
Notice how the billionaire is like Tom Lee, who knows a lot about crypto. He's talking about how the future of cryptocurrencies is going to be literally the cryptocurrencies that work with utility. 2021 was all about meme coins. 2025 is going to be all about utility tokens. Again, I've been talking about utility tokens. I sound like a broken record, but that is because they are the best thing right now for people to buy, in my personal non-financial opinion. Because right now, this is what the billionaires are buying. They're buying, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP. I haven't seen anyone buying like Pepe yet, for example. Could be wrong.
Exotic capital structure and everything that is being done. And we haven't announced our staking solution, but we're taking our time because, first of all, $3 billion of ETH, it's a big decision, but it's also going to be completely compliant with GAAP and actually how the US would want that to be staked. So I think it's a very thoughtful approach we're taking. But yes, I mean, everything you just said, like, let's say, because I don't disagree, and it just shows you Ethereum treasury companies are critical infrastructure. It's not just a treasury play. And in exchange for that, you're earning a staking yield at a minimum, but they could be earning other ways of generating income. So I think you're highlighting that these Ethereum treasuries aren't just like an alternative to an ETH ETF. They are playing a really important role in the ecosystem. In the short term, where fair value for Ethereum does not play into what ETH does short term. I mean, look at it. Last week, it got to 3,300 on because there are folks who have liquidation levels, or they're doing pair trades, or people think Ethereum's a dead chain, so they're betting on another chain.
So that's why, like, for right now, XRP does not have many transactions yet. Is it because it is in testing phases? XRP is literally in testing phases and has not been used by banks yet. When people call, XRP ledger has no transactions.
And trying to force levels of liquidation. I think that's the dynamic near term, but wasn't that Bitcoin at $1,000 in 2017? Like, actually, if people go back to 2017, because I think Ethereum is having its Bitcoin 2017 moment this year, where Wall Street is finally getting behind ETH. Bitcoin was 1,000 in the early part of 2017, and it wasn't until August, and then it went straight up.
Ethereum isn't just holding its ground, it's starting to pull ahead. As 2025 winds down, Ethereum has actually outperformed most other major crypto assets, driven by record on-chain activity, surging developer adoption, and growing institutional demand. While Bitcoin continues to anchor the market, Ethereum's momentum is signaling that it could be a real leader in this next phase, setting the stage for what analysts call its strongest run yet. Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm for
XRP already up 600%, and it hasn't even had the ETF listings. Now Ethereum is priming for another rally. And guys, don't feel bad if Bitcoin and Ethereum goes up, because XRP, I can guarantee you, will go up with it, historically speaking.
the Bitcoin realm. Tom Lee confidently predicts that explosive growth is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other crypto giants are doing just that. Tom Lee reassures that a long-expected surge awaits. By the end of 2025, there will be 1.1 billion active crypto wallets. The pace of growth is hard to comprehend.
Isn't like XRP right now has 5 to 6 billion users or wallets, but not a lot of them are active. Imagine once the chain goes live, that will be a lot more, potentially 30 million active wallets.
And it will be the fastest accumulation of wealth we have ever seen. This is the conclusion of a career's worth of research. And every single chart and piece of research leads to the same conclusion. Liquidity drives everything, and crypto will be the best performing asset of them all.
Like, what is resonant about Ether, the asset, and the treasury company model over something like Bitcoin or any other alternative treasury company?
Well, first, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the way, and our work on the fund stretch side shows Bitcoin can get to the $1.5 million per coin. So Bitcoin still has a huge story ahead. Yeah, but Bitcoin and Ethereum operate on different parts of how the world is financializing. And that's the principal difference to me, because Ethereum represents the world financializing onto the blockchain, which is not Bitcoin's goal, and the AI world creating basically a digitally native way to bridge the real world and, digital security. So that's, to me, why someone wants to own Ethereum treasuries, because I would buy MicroStrategy if I was looking at this. And by the way, it is a granny shot in the Fundstrat ETF. But the reason is that MicroStrategy is growing your Bitcoin holdings every day. So you're going to outperform Bitcoin. Ethereum treasuries are really the only way for a US equity investor to get exposure to Ethereum unless they're buying ETH directly or an ETH ETF.
Weren't we talking about XRP treasuries in the future as well? People buying and holding XRP long term? Since even if it's a bear market or a bull market, or if 10 or 15 years pass, XRP is going to be profitable enough to make all that money back. That's what I've been hearing. Like that, someone is looking to make an XRP treasury, since XRP is still going to be around, since it's profitable now, and it's relying on all these partnerships to become profitable since 2024.
But if you're an institution and this is one of the biggest themes, I don't think they're going to just say, well, in my fund, my $50 billion large cap fund, Ethereum's the biggest trade, so I'll buy JP Morgan. They might, but they're better off saying, how can I be directly exposed to Ethereum? And they can't really buy an Ethereum ETF because that's not within the parameters of their fund. So I think, to me, the US equity market professional investor looks at Ethereum treasuries as really the only way to get exposure to ETH as a macro trade. We noticed Bitcoin, because I was at J Morgan, was like $100 when I left in 2014, and we talked about it in 2012, and then suddenly it was like $1,000. I was like, whoa, it's $100 billion. I've never seen anything go to $100 billion that didn't have something behind it. So at Fundstrat, we spent several months trying to understand Bitcoin, and I never fully understood it, but I found that it was driven by two explainable things. One is that it was 97% of that move of Bitcoin from 100 to 1,000 was the number of wallets and the activity per wallet.
That's what I'm telling you guys. Once XRP Ledger goes live, this is when the price activity will happen. Same with Bitcoin. It will reach new highs, in my opinion. This is what Tom Lee is saying. Wallet activities are super important for the price. Once more people start using XRP and have a use case for it and to use their blockchain, guess what? People will have a reason to buy it. People will need to pay somehow gas fees. That's how Solana grew. It was a strap basically to buy meme coins, and now XRP could be the next one.
I mean, basically,
it's not just ETFs. It's not just rate cuts that we're speaking of. There's 1,000 indicators for XRP.
Network value effect. And we could simply say, in the next couple of years, if more people use Bitcoin, it's going to go up exponentially again. So we thought it would reach, by 2022, 25,000, but it could even go to 100,000 if it got to 5 to 10% of the value of gold. So we started to really push that story as Wall Street needs to understand Bitcoin because it's digital gold. And you're right, Ryan, maybe other people said it, but we were really the first Wall Street firm to push it to the institutional universe. And remember, 0% of institutions had ownership of Bitcoin. It was 100% retail. And as you know, in the last 8 years, Bitcoin has the biggest narrative is it's digital gold. It's a store of value. Of course, it's a great payment system, everything else. But really what's resonated is that there's a group of people that own gold. And we did studies back then to show gold was primarily owned by baby boomers. So millennials would own Bitcoin the way boomers owned gold. So it was a generational story on top of a, digital substitution story. That's the sort of...
So yeah, while people might buy Bitcoin to own gold, once we get more activity, people will need to use XRP for the change, for all the transactions. they will not be using Bitcoin because of the high transfers. I mean, Bitcoin will have other uses, but some of these, either Ethereum or XRP, will be the most used chains. You know, Solana and layer 1 blockchains, layer 2, they're super competitive right now, but XRP has been building in the last 10 years.
The backstory. And I did many webinars. You know, actually at Fundstrat, believe it or not, we got fired from our institutional clients. We actually had a decline in paying clients at Fundstrat because they thought we completely lost our mind. And you're saying it's a legitimate asset class. And
I feel like that was the same thing with XRP. When people were buying XRP, it would just call them crazy, right? Because they had an ongoing $500 million lawsuit.
And so our reputation was actually harmed. But as you know, Bitcoin now is 120,000. So it was 120x. Our clients that invested in and followed us, because we recommended 1% to 2%, for some it became 100% of their portfolio. I think that's happening with Ethereum today because Ethereum's been kind of a dormant chain. People wanted faster networks, you know, or more novel ways to do essentially validation, but Ethereum's had zero downtime. That is what matters to Wall Street. Zero downtime in 10
Also for banks, like XRP is doing the same thing, 0% downtime, 15,000 transactions per second.
years. So I think that Wall Street has already decided Ethereum is the chain they're going to build Wall Street onto. And it's lower than it was 5 years ago. We know on-chain activity has surged to all-time highs, right? So Ethereum the community has been regalvanized because the price, of course, has recovered, but also more people are using Ethereum. And then it's very obvious that the Genius Act really benefits a smart contract blockchain, as much as it benefits Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, you know, won't host a stablecoin. Do I think that the fact that Ethereum is not at 15,000 today is a bad sign? I've seen this before. I mean, you know, we've recommended Tesla and we've recommended NVIDIA, and it's a granny shot since 2019 in Fundstrat Capital's ETF, and it's been part of the research portfolio for a long time. It has not tracked revenues. It has moved in step functions. And I think Ethereum, look, I'd love to see it stay here for 5 years because that means we can acquire it at a...
So yeah, if Ethereum moves up, I definitely see that also XRP could move up. Just the technology and just how much XRP has moved in the last year, it doesn't tell me it's, you know, it's consolidating. That's why whales are still buying it at $3.
much more attractive price. I mean,
like they're buying it at $3 and just seeing the price being above $3 means that the whales still want to obtain a lots of it.
if it is at 17,000, that's much more expensive for the Ethereum treasuries to acquire Ethereum. Of course, their stock prices will benefit, but to me, it's actually great that it's actually here.
Where does all of this leave us? Ethereum has crossed $4,000, weathered short-term volatility, and is now attracting the kind of institutional attention that once catapulted Bitcoin into the mainstream. Analysts are increasingly framing this as Ethereum's 2017 Bitcoin moment, where the groundwork laid over the past decade finally meets global recognition and capital inflows. But here's what makes this cycle different. Ethereum isn't just competing as a digital currency, it's the infrastructure powering decentralized finance, stablecoins, and entire ecosystems of applications that regulators and institutions are beginning to take seriously. That combination of utility and adoption is exactly why many see $5,000.
I feel like it's pretty obvious if the rich people are buying, if the banks are buying XRP, or at least they're making partnerships, they believe in the future. It's not just going to be a one-off thing. And yes, technology is changing for the better. It's getting faster and stronger, and they will rather pick someone that, you know, already has everything set up now and it has been building for the last 10 years when people didn't believe into it. 10 years ago, nobody believed in XRP. That's why the price was so cheap. But seems like this is the biggest solution for banks right now, you know, saving millions of dollars in money from transfers on that way. So yeah, XRP, Ethereum, they both have a great potential from here, especially, you know, from development side.
Ethereum's real growth story is still ahead of us.
So we are going to be probably seeing the biggest XRP phase, the biggest change you can call in XRP history. This is what we have been waiting for, XRP. holders. So definitely very, very nice news for anyone in the XRP space. Look at this. This will trigger the largest crypto bull run ever. We literally saw that.
Again soon, and ETH heading toward uncharted highs as adoption accelerates. The bottom line, if Powell's liquidity thesis plays out, we're on the edge of phase 3 of the banana zone.
So we're always talking about banana zone. What is the banana zone? This is the biggest question a lot of people have. Banana zone literally is a bull run rally, like a bull run off support. So yeah, that is what Raoul Pal is it's not a meme in a sense. It's when people are calling, buying the dip and getting it sky high. That's what actually happened to XRP this year.
The bottom line, if Powell's liquidity thesis plays out, we're on the edge of phase 3 of the banana zone, a high momentum phase where prices can go parabolic. And for him, crypto remains the single best bet to outpace currency debasement. Let's get right into the latest interview with Raoul Pal as he gives his latest crypto market outlook and why he says the bull run is only getting started. Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.
And Cardano's in tons of videos, it's 78 cents. You can see.
So Cardano has been kind of on a downtrend lately compared to XRP. They both launched at the same time, but Stellar has grown, same as XRP, which tells me there is a lot of potential for utility US coins to win big. There's literally 450% growth that we are seeing right now just from these tokens. It's not like Bitcoin has outperformed XRP. Maybe in the last 2 years, but this year, XRP has definitely won its race.
The other assets doing it. Now, Robinhood, could they have chosen Solana to build on? Yeah, but they chose an ETH layer too. So, look, I've never had...
Like banks could be choosing Ethereum, but they are choosing the fastest transactions for the lowest amount of money, and that is XRP. XRP clearly has the most transactions compared to any other chain. So this is really good, Raoul Pal is saying. Especially for XRP, what we're seeing right now.
An issue with ETH, and yes, it underperforms over periods in time, but it's like, this is the core foundation stone of Web3 is ETH. And everything else kind of builds around it, Bitcoin being a separate beast. So what I had done is, we've talked about this before, the second cycle trade where somebody's got Lindy effect and you buy it, which was Solana at the low in 22, is usually the best tradable because it's kind of been de-risked. And then people have the light bulb moment, which they're having again with ETH, right? But ETH has gone through that Lindy effect in the past. And I'm like, this stuff is survived the Lindy effects. There's a group of collectors who passionately care about XCOPY, Beeple, whoever it may be, Sam Spratt, all of this stuff. And that this stuff is likely over time, as the wealth in this space, I think it goes from $3 trillion to $100 trillion over the next 8 years.
$100 trillion market cap would basically mean, what, $25, $30 XRP?
Right, so it has always been a proven store of value. I think the stuff that I started buying in 2024, early 2024, is up between 3 and 5x in ETH terms. And then ETH is up another, whatever X, depending where you bought them. So they become this massive multiplier trade. I've said this for a long time. I mean, as you know, my main bet has been Sui for a while. And before that was Solana. Those rotations have done well. Sui still generally outperforming Solana over a longer term basis. I think the next phase of Bitcoin dominance, we're seeing the ETH rotation trade. That's good. The catch up is happening. Okay, once it gets into kind of mid value versus Bitcoin again.
I feel like what really didn't help XRP grow the past 3 years was number one, the lawsuit, and number two, basically the markets being bad. So with that being improved, this is where XRP could really improve and, have it skyrocket limit.
Then I think we'll see the rest of the space utterly ignite. And as we know, once you throw in a lot of liquidity into lower free float things, they go up more. And that's how it always plays out. And that's where we are in the cycle. Now, one of the things on the macro side that we look at is the influence of the business cycle on that particular trade. And it's the same trade you and I have grown up with in markets is earnings have to go up for people to go further out the risk curve. So when the ISM picks up properly, the business cycle picks up, corporates and people earn more, and what we find is, in the bond market, it goes out to junk, then out to emerging market junk, and then out to private credit. We see small caps outperforming big caps in equity markets. We see all of this, and it's the same with the altcoins. The issue is everybody thinks their altcoin should go up. That's the issue.
I feel like that's what people are calling it. My altcoin should be up, but the ones that will grow up most and which ones have been the past year and this year are utility tokens, utility US-based tokens, and that's exactly what XRP is.
It's like everyone's like, well, mine hasn't gone up, so therefore this is all wrong. It's like you need to have the right altcoins, and I think people mid-curve it. They get so involved in the value benefits of their particular token, when really there's one simple thing: is go onto CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap and look at crypto. And we've talked about this. It's like, I'm sorry, but people are going to buy XRP and Doge and Cardano, whether you like it or not, because they're cheap. In the absolute term of.
So yeah, when the retail investors come in, they literally don't have a reason to get Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are super expensive to them. They will just buy some Doge, XRP. They will buy something that's under $5, right? Because you can own many of something. It's like a psychological thing. And that's where XRP really wins. It's cheap and you can buy many of it. That's what happened with Shiba Inu.
How much you pay for a token. So people will do that. The alt layer ones that are getting absolute network adoption, Solana, Sui, few others, great. And then somewhere in the middle, we'll see what happens. But I think the middle part is the harder play.
We're now in the part of the cycle where global liquidity, measured by the M2 money supply, is starting to turn higher. Historically,
like literally retail is not here yet. It's just coming in.
Every major Bitcoin rally has followed this same pattern, with prices accelerating a few months after M2 begins rising. Raoul Pal says that correlation isn't coincidence. Liquidity is the single biggest driver of crypto markets. As M2 expands, capital flows down the risk curve, first into Bitcoin, then into Ethereum, and eventually across the entire altcoin space.
So when you speak to friends now, some people got bored in crypto over that period of sideways consolidation. They're all punting options on tech stocks, right? So the speculative fervor and the confidence that I can make money in this because everything's trending because of the debasement and everything else, and we've got some mega narratives like AI, makes it pretty easy game to make money in. I've had this everything code thesis for quite a while now, but generally speaking, the crypto space has understood debasement of currency versus inflation, which is what TradFi thought of. And we've been on this trade saying they need to refinance the debt. That's the whole everything code thesis. And here is Scott Bessent coming out saying publicly, we need stablecoins to refi the debt. Trump.
Guys, also sorry, I don't know why the voice is cutting out. It should have been fixed in that sense. It's not on my side.
They're telling you what the game is. And there's still a lot of TradFi people who don't want to understand it, because debasement's not a thing that was taught at university. What beats the debasement? Debasement's about 8% plus a bit of inflation, whatever. So call it 10, 11%, 12%. Well, the S&P does that. So that doesn't help. Gold does a little bit less. So that doesn't.
I'm not too sure what debasement is. So debasement, if I understand, is in economics is when something starts losing its value, or like a decline, your dollar being worth less. Didn't XRP do the exact opposite of a debasement, like going up 600%? So maybe you have like $1 here now, and it's literally getting like a decline in the last 20 years, basically.
Gold does a little bit less.
So yeah, gold is a bit less debasement, how much of a purchasing power, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, they literally grew in the basement 1,000 times.
Correlations of the long-term drivers of the asset prices, 97.5% of the NASDAQ is explained by debasement, liquidity, and 90% of crypto. So you've got the largest dominant factor in the history of macro markets over the longest persistent period of time, since 2008. So you basically only need to care about one thing, that. And the other side is how fast is it being adopted, which is why it outperforms the debasement. So in which case you've got only one macro factor that matters, which is why I keep saying to everybody it's all noise. Nobody cares, because it's 90% of all price movement is explained by one factor. If it's crypto, then all you need to do is look at what is the strongest performing chart, let's say on a weekly basis, and that happens to be SUI. So I just own that. But you could just own Bitcoin, or you could probably just own ETH, or you could own Solana, and you'll be fine.
I don't know why he didn't mention XRP, but that's what he's calling. Like right now, if you own the US dollar, it will lower in value, especially in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It loses its own value. But when you go big on it, when you go big on crypto, this is where the debasement is. Like what I'm trying to tell you guys is the money right now is having less and less value every 5 years, every 1 year. While other coins, people are going to invest more in utility, not something that, is potentially going to be gone forever, like meme coins. There's a lot of meme coins that disappeared in the last 4 years. People will go more and more into coins that they can check after 20, 25 years, and they will still be there.
So you own one asset, so you don't have to watch this whole basket. And we've all run portfolios, and before you know it, you've got 10 positions that are losing money because you don't focus on them. So it's like, get rid of all of that noise. Then look what Bitcoiners did. The early adopters did nothing, and they compounded more wealth than anybody else in the shortest period of time, pretty much.
So yeah, this is the best. When you can have basically doing nothing and then getting returns on it. That's what XRP is doing right now.
From a few startup founders. So the signal's there, and then if it is one factor, then all you need to worry about is liquidity. That's it. Still feels like the market, if I look at the top 20, it still feels like it's not mature enough, really. So you've kind of got some weird stuff in there. But generally speaking, should work fine. The issue is Bitcoin's a bit too large percentage. You've got the issue of Bitcoin being a bit large, like MSCI World used to have this massive weighting of Japan, and everyone had to produce an ex-Japan version of it. So do you have an ex-Bitcoin version? So you can buy Bitcoin via an ETF and then have everything else ex-Bitcoin? And
yeah, that's an interesting one.
Because Bitcoin is a different beast, right? It's a network adoption model of a new collateral asset. Let's call it that. Well, the rest is really a technology that's being used for other stuff. My overall thesis is space is going from 3.5 trillion to 100 trillion. What's these?
So he's calling we're going from 3 trillion to 100 trillion. Now, this is going to be a hard thing to do for Bitcoin. I feel like his predictions are for the next 10 to 20 years. So if we literally trust the market, if I check the crypto market cap over here, I can actually see here that the market cap in the last year alone since the rally went from 1 trillion to 3.48 trillion. So it did a 400% gain in the last 3 years. So historically, we could be seeing huge changes in the next 20 years. Again, I'm not in a rush with XRP. Could be taking 10 years for it to hit $15, but probably less because it's a compound effect, right? There's always going to be more and more of compounding of money, of people, getting bored of debase. Basically, debase means if something has less and less value. So for example, let's say you buy a car, it has less value than in the next 5 years. While altcoins, this is why people have been buying altcoins, they are giving better returns.
Way to capture it. Well, I built an asset management firm, XPAM, because we invest in hedge funds, a basket of hedge funds. So it's a fund of funds to be able to capture that in the best way possible. And you'll capture that trend just fine. So you can make some really good money out of some of those tech plays. And so we've had some really good ones, but the bulk of my own personal capital, I just keep it in this. It's just easy. The likelihood is it's into Q2 2026. What we would look for from here is a further weakening of the dollar to give us more clarity of that, because it leads as part of financial conditions for a long basis. But probabilistically speaking, it looks like it's going to go on a lot further than people expect. just because the cycle's been extended because they kept rates so high so long. I mean, the reality is, outside of all of the noise, Trueflation is showing inflation at 1.75% and has done for the last several months, and rates are at 4.5%, wherever they are. I mean, rates need to come down 200 basis points, at least. Well, if that comes...
It's calling for rate cuts. I think still rate cuts will not change XRP price that much. Could be the same as with lawsuit. They did not make huge changes, but they definitely will help. Maybe like 5% for XRP, 10%, depending how much rate cuts we get. He's saying if we want to get economy to boom, if we want to get XRP to boom, we need to see these rate cuts happen.
Comes down, people have more disposable income. Meanwhile, the companies that they work for do better, because that's what the ISM going up means, which means people get paid more. That whole positive feedback loop is still to come.
Raoul Pal isn't just calling for a rally. He's practically waving the green flag on what he thinks could be the most explosive crypto cycle yet, running straight through 2026. All the classic signs are flashing: global liquidity turning higher, Bitcoin dominance stalling, and Ethereum sitting in prime position to lead the next wave. If history's any guide, we know what happens when the M2 money supply starts climbing. Capital races down the risk curve. The first stop is Bitcoin, then Ethereum. And before long, the entire altcoin market starts lighting up. Pal calls this the banana zone, the stage where prices don't just rise, they launch. Think parabolic moves, broken records, and price targets that used to sound impossible, suddenly looking conservative. So if Pal is right, we're standing on the edge of a once-in-a-generation window, one where crypto isn't just an investment, it's the single most...
So yeah, this is what a lot of crypto investors have been waiting for the last 3 years, literally pumps like this. It is very good news for XRP investors because utility, technology, and AI will boost the next market run, which historically it is in October and November. So moving on, what will happen when XRP this goes nuclear? XRP will go nuclear if this happens. It's bigger than you think. ETFs, XRP ETFs. This is something I have been calling for a while now. I feel like I have been calling for the last possibly like the whole month of how important the ETFs are. Even more important than rate cuts, even more important than the Clarity Bill Act that we have been talking this month. So smash that like button if you guys haven't already. But again, XRP Bank is now final. The next part is for the XRP ETFs because the regulation is set in.
Full update. We're going to get into that. We're also looking at Wellgistics Health is seeking to leverage XRP payments for 1.4 trillion pharma trade market. There's a ton of Ripple and XRP news. We're also going to take a look at, can Ripple seed their new bank, their national bank charter once it's...
So yeah, this is the biggest problem. Will they be able to continue with their bank to process all the transactions for XRP Ledger?
Approved with their XRP that they have in escrow. I'm going to answer all of that and more. Let's go.
You guys have been around for a long time, so you've seen these market cycles ebb and flow, and now we're in one where digital assets are now finally kind of growing up and making their way to Wall Street and their trek to Washington and all of that. You say it's a nascent market. How big could this be?
I think that crypto can be bigger than anyone imagines because the people who focus on cap table and say there's not enough money to make these cap tables that big, that's not true because it's got nothing to do with the amount of money. I mean, it does have to do with the amount of money, but not all of the crypto is going to be out there trading. So the cap table, you know, it's like an AI company being worth, you know, $500 billion. It's because there are only a limited number of shares that actually trade on it. And so that's how it's going to work with crypto.
We already see it with XRP. Like a lot of people keep holding their XRP and don't sell it for a forbidden amount of years, maybe like let's say 2 years, which means that the price like that XRP is gone off the market.
Going to buy it and hold it and store it.
So what he's saying here is that, you know, people look at the supply for XRP, it has 100 billion units, right? People assume there's so much of it everywhere, there's going to be enough for everybody else. But when you look underneath all of the cracks and, you know, where the XRP actually is on what exchanges, there's really only 8 or 9% of XRP available on exchanges. And that's the current circulating supply, 8 to 9% of 59 billion tokens. So you're looking at rough like 5-6 billion tokens actually left on exchanges. changes, and that numbers has been depleting and depleting over the last few months. And so once these ETFs get approved, is there going to be enough XRP on the open market to fund all of these things, as well as the rest of the public, right? Because now you're going to have crypto regulation. You're going to have tens of millions of new people coming in just in America, let alone the rest of the world. So how much, XRP and other crypto assets will actually be left? That's what he's saying here.
What's Ripple going to do with its 40?
The thing is, there's so many coins right now. I really think a burn, if in big amounts, like millions of dollars of transactions, will make a big burn for XRP. Just right now we're burning $3,000 per day. Right now, XRP supply is still super huge. XRP ETFs could do this supply shock sort of thing, but we are really waiting for many more factors than just the XRP ETFs. Because if, for example, XRP goes to $10 and somebody sells everything, it will dump back to $7 or $6 again.
Billion XRP. Given that they filed to be a bank, there's one of the leading theories that they just hold that on their balance sheet. They get their banking license and they become a top 20 capitalized bank in the world. That's with XRP at $3. XRP goes to, some multiple of $3. They become a top 10 bank or even the top bank in terms of capitalization. That's pretty astounding.
That would be insanely astounding. And I think
what he's talking about there is Ripple becoming a globally, systemically important bank. It's called a GSIB. We've talked about those before, like Chase Bank and a few other giant banks are so systematically important that if they went down, the whole system might not work. So Ripple could put them in such a power play here where they're so important to the world's financial system that they really can't go down, and the government would step in to support them if anything happened. So that's what we're talking about here, the level of...
I don't know if this will really happen, and the scenario of XRP going down, it's already right now at, all-time highs. It's already profitable. So the scenario where it goes down is only if all other companies go down. And I don't think the US government is going to save it, like people are saying.
Of craziness. So
it is XRP, but again, they're not working with the government yet. They're working with the banks. And this is the big difference. Scenario where Ripple doesn't ever sell the XRP escrow. This is how much? $500 million?
Let me play this 13-second clip because then it goes into what we're talking about here. Can Ripple use XRP to fund the bank? That's what I wanted to answer. Here we go.
It's hard to say. If they get approved as a bank and then announce they're not going to sell any more XRP onto the market because they want to capitalize the bank, I think that would be an enormous impetus for price. That's gigantic. It's hard to say if they get...
Okay, so let's take a look at this. What could this look like? We know Ripple has applied for a national bank charter aiming to be both regulated in state and federal authorities. However, banks traditionally use fiat cash, government securities like treasuries, and certain approved assets for capitalization.
A lot of people are saying that XRP is going to replace the US dollar. I don't think that will happen ever.
Inclusion of crypto as bank capital depends on regulatory guidance from the OCC. So basically, it hasn't been done before where crypto's been used to fund these types of things like the capitalization of the bank, but it's up to the OCC. The OCC is the one who's going to be approving Ripple's national bank charter along with Circle and all these other companies. So it'll be interesting. So
I don't know why they wouldn't approve it. Most likely might.
See here, guidance from the OCC, the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and other agencies. So all of these agencies, the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the OCC have all come out in I was going to say in like 2 thumbs up of crypto, but that's not what I wanted to say. In support. It's early. All right. In support of crypto. And anyways, let's keep going here. Crypto use for liquidity. Banks and institutions are increasingly adopted XRP for liquidity management and collateral solutions, especially for cross-border payments who optimize capital efficiency. This is distant from using it in realized bank capital on balance sheets. XRP can be used within liquidity pool algorithms and for real-time payments, not as traditional capital reserves. And so can escrowed XRP be used for capitalization?
Locked amounts of XRP releasing 1 billion tokens monthly. So this is the escrow as XRP. I'm guessing this is what they have for development. If this gets sold to the market, I don't think they even have to sell this, right? If they're profitable already. But if this needs to be sold in case of emergency, if they burn this, this would be definitely a very big price jump as well. So 1 billion tokens monthly is like $300 million. So that is a lot of potential dumping. on Ripple's ability to sell or allocate these assets as long as the sales are compliant with security and applicable laws. There's no law explicitly barring Ripple from allocating escrow to XRP, but using these tokens for regulatory capital would require approval from both banking and security regulators. I feel like they could get it, right? Escrow XRP has instead been used to incentivize market makers, provide liquidity, and in private institutional agreements. So if like they sell someone, XRP privately, instead of like telling them, hey, go buy it on the market, they get a cash fund, they get an investment like $20 million, and they can get XRP for it instead. I feel like this has happened this year where, people bought stocks and now they own like 10% of XRP at valued at 30 cents.
Ripple's escrow system locks large amounts of XRP, releasing 1 billion tokens monthly. This system was designed to provide transparency rather than legal limitation on Ripple's ability to sell or allocate these assets as long as the sales are compliant with securities and applicable laws. Escrow and bank capital. There is no law explicitly barring Ripple from allocating escrow to XRP, but these tokens for regulatory capital would require approval from both banking and securities regulators. So, this might be...
I don't think they will ever need to sell this escrow. This escrow is like for liquidity. It's for other stuff. It's not really for selling on the market. So I'm not too afraid of like $300 million being sold. But, just this being locked away, I feel like a lot of people would feel very much happier.
Institutional agreements, reportedly something involving global entities, IMF, BIS, but details are typically private but speculative. And then, of course, Ripple did buy XRP off the open market to fund on-demand liquidity. I think they bought about 4 billion XRP. It says banks and payment providers often acquire XRP from the open market for ODL transactions, but these XRP are briefly held as a bridge, but not as capital reserves. For on-demand liquidity, XRP is purchased and used in a transaction and quickly sold for fiat. There's precedent that the U.S. institutions to buy XRP where it is not classified as a security and used as it operationally. But holding XRP as long-term reserves for Tier 1 capital faces regulatory resistance until Congress passes enabling legislation. So this could be really interesting timing, right? Because the Congress is working on the bill for crypto regulation here in the United States, the Clarity Act. If they are able to pass that, and somewhere in that massive bill, it says that crypto companies can use crypto, for capital reserves. That is going to exactly, align with what Ripple might be trying to do here. And it's just so interesting. It's just really cool.
They might use it for capital reserves, but how are they going to price that? Because it's gonna be the market taking the hit, right? I really didn't understand how is that going to help Ripple. So if Ripple gets a national bank, they could be like using the XRP itself for like the capital, if I understand correctly. If somebody knows down in the comments below, let me know. But it seems like that this one is much more bullish news. You'll see trillions of dollars of inflows, which isn't that insane, especially in the crypto markets. I'm not sure if it's like going to be 2025. That probably not. But 2026 is a much more bullish momentum. Mass adoption in just 3 to 5 years.
To think about, talk about research, and go over with you. Gets the wheels spinning. All right. David Schwartz on XRP's future 2026. You will see trillions of dollars in inflows. Let's get it.
That's going to enable the sort of widespread adoption over the 3 to 5 year time frame. I think you're going to see the next wave of DeFi applications that solve real world problems like payments, like sensible investments, like loans. Yeah, I mean, if you think about what do people use, they have savings accounts, they have checking accounts, they have retirement accounts. I think you're going to see that mass adoption where people get those traditional financial services from blockchains like the XRP ledger over that 3 to 5 year time frame. As far as the
all right. Bill Morgan posted this.
I mean, trillions, like 3 trillion, maybe we get like 1 trillion to XRP. If we even get 1 trillion, that is half of market cap of Bitcoin, which would mean XRP goes to $10 finally. I don't feel like that's that crazy. But XRP ledger will power payments, loans, savings, and retirement accounts. It is going to power everything, but can it handle everything right now? Because I have heard it can only power like a portion of it.
Get it.
That's going to enable the sort of widespread adoption services.
$20 to $50 per.
So old system takes $20 to $50. I'm not too sure how many healthcare providers still use this old wire transfers, right? The wire transfers are super expensive, but isn't the world using like Swift nowadays, which is only like $1 or $2? So yeah, that's the really old system, like from the 19th century. But if they implement XRP, so it's not XRP, it could be banks as well working with them.
Wire. How does that make sense? XRP has the potential to enable low-cost, near-instant global payments. Our platform is being designed to harness this functionality for cross-border healthcare use cases with robust AML KYC compliance to ensure secure and compliant transactions. Remember, when you're dealing with pharmacies, you have to verify who's picking up the medication, right? Especially if it's something
that could be done on the ledger, which would be amazing. Again, we're still in very early stages because right now XRP is focusing on the banks before anything else.
That's, controlled. They want your ID. They want to know who you are. They're going to write down all the numbers. And so I'm sure that you've been there before, right? And so this would allow, right? Because Ripple's really built all of their technology around AML, KYC, and all of these different compliance because they knew who their customers were going to be. Financial institutions. And this fits perfectly with what Logistics is trying to do here. And so XRP potential here, XRP offers near instant low cost global transactions, potentially reducing costs from tens of dollars to cents. So, if they're spending millions of dollars or billions of dollars on payments per year or per 10 years, whatever it is, they can bring that down 95% by.
I'm not too sure. Like, do the hospitals have to send $30 to $50 each transaction? Wouldn't be the people paying the banks paying that? 50 to 70. I don't think they have to pay $30 to $50. Like, they just pay $1 to $2. Again, it's 10%. Maybe they're paying like 10%. I'm not too sure on the what the hospitals are doing here, but it definitely isn't that much. Seamless vendor payments, efficient cross-border telehealth reimbursements, and multinational employer support. Like, just any company using XRP, once it can go live, it still isn't like 100% live, will profit from that, in my opinion. So it's not just banks. It is any type of company.
You have to verify who's picking up the medication, right? Especially if it's something that's, controlled. They want your ID. They want to know who you are. They're going to write down all the numbers. And so I'm sure that you've been there before, right? And so this would allow, right? Because Ripple's really built all of their technology around AML, KYC, and all of these different compliance because they knew who their customers were going to be. Financial institutions. And this fits perfectly with what Logistics is trying to do here. And so XRP potential here, XRP offers near instant low cost global transactions, potentially reducing costs from tens of dollars to cents. So, if they're spending millions of dollars or billions of dollars on payments per year or per 10 years, whatever it is, they can bring that down 95% by using XRP. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Like, you're going to have way extra money. You can maybe lower the prices for the customers and still make a nice return. It's a win-win for everybody. It does talk about, right? We talk about compliance and security. I don't really need to get into that too much. 1.4 trillion pharma market. Pharmaceuticals rely heavily on fast, reliable, and error-free payments for everything from drug supply chains to telehealth, reimbursements, and multinational payroll. If Ripple and XRP gain traction in this space, it not only validates their technology, but creates network effects, driving adoption among other vendors, right? So you got to imagine, Logistics here has competition, right? At the highest level. If they're one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, they're going to be competing against other massive pharmaceutical companies. Now, when you're able to offer, get 80%, 90% savings on these payments by using digital assets, like XRP, that is going to put pressure on your competitors, right? Because now
I feel like, if you get like something for 90% less, if it works, the issue is you need to build a lot of trust in that industry. Like, XRP needed years to build that trust. Imagine like if the systems go down, like you can't explain to these institutions, oh, sorry, we can't pay you or we can't do these transfers. The banks went down, right? That's why they're in testing phases and keeping sure that XRP will be 100% having an uptime. This is what they're focusing on right now.
Now you have choices, right? You could lower prices a bit if you wanted to and make it really competitive.
It's not about getting prices. Some of these corporations I feel like would still pay more if it means it's safe and, running safe and sound.
Against your competitor, Or you can find some way to use that money and leverage that money to do something else. Maybe the savings, you buy more XRP and you leverage that as a treasury. There's just so many other things that you can do here that really opens up, opens everything up. It's actually pretty cool. And here are the strategic advantages. Efficiency leads to innovation. Rapid settlement and low fees may allow new business models such as seamless telehealth across borders and real-time chain supply settlement. Competitive positioning, Ripple and XRP become industry standards, opening up additional sectors beyond pharma, similar transformation, and the ability to handle high transaction volume at critical given the pharma industry scale. So how many transactions? All right, here is the update with case. James K. Filan posted this yesterday. The SEC has filed a status report with the Court of Appeals, noting that the parties have filed a joint stipulation of dismissal of the appeals, and the stipulation remains pending and therefore awaiting approved by the court. Okay. And so here's the document. I did throw this into Perplexity and make sure that it was legitimate. And it is, there was a status report filed yesterday, August 15th. This video will come out on Sunday. By the way, have a fantastic week ahead. You got this. All right. Ripple's
penalty and settlement. Ripple agreed to pay 125 million penalty. Like, a lot of people are worried, will this crash the XRP price? Just the amount that they made this month and the $200 million deal, I don't feel like the $125 million penalty is even that problematic for them.
Penalty and settlement, Ripple agreed to pay the $125 million. The end of the appeals means the final judgment will remain in effect, but no further appeals or federal litigation are anticipated tied to XRP's regulatory status as the federal level. It does say pending approval. The stipulation is not yet formally approved by the court, but this is considered a final administrative step with no indication of delays or obstruction from either side.
So yeah, with this finally being over, I feel like they will much rather pay 125 million and just get it over with, right? And then they can focus on other projects.
Approval is expected to occur soon unless the court raises procedural objections. So looks like we're all home free here unless something truly, else happens. I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it. Knock on the wood. Knock on wood. Okay. I
just don't feel like this will happen because, at least not from the legal case, didn't they just ask for the court document for them to just finally close it? Unless they would reopen the case somehow, it's going to be very hard. Breaking, Ripple CEO confirms working with Elon Musk. I don't believe this news at all. Like, where do we find this type of news? Bringing the price to 600. If he doesn't announce it on a tweet, I cannot believe it.
See this? I wasn't really too excited with this post. This is from Ripple Queen. It says Ripple CEO confirms working with Elon Musk. And this is not like, this is a new post, like in the last 24 hours. Of course, we threw it into Perplexity. I said, hey, can we fact check this and just get some information here?
If Ripple Queen was, if Elon Musk was working with XRP, everybody would be talking about it. This would be like the story of the century. That's why this is such a thing. Like, there's a lot of news like that. Personally, there's no evidence. And there's, you cannot just call a price like that. It doesn't make sense.
There is no credible evidence or official statement for Ripple CEO or reputable source confirming that Ripple is working closely with Elon Musk, nor is there any announcement about them integrating XRP with Musk's X program. Now, I've done some videos on this before, looking to see if we could find any real connections, and we couldn't find any connections. We do know that Elon wants to build an everything app, and part of that will be borrowing, lending, and payments. And what a better use case for something like XRP or XLM to do.
I don't understand why he would use XRP. Why wouldn't he just use Dogecoin, for example?
And so people speculate online that Elon Musk is going to either work with Ripple or with Stellar, but we'll have to see. They can obviously go any which way they want. Remember, Binance Square posts are not from Binance, right? Anybody can post on Binance Square, right? Your cousin.
It's kind of like Twitter, yeah. So don't believe that, guys. But there's plenty of news as well. I will keep you updated. It is looking pretty nice, especially with their banking stuff. We do have more confirmation as well on why XRP dumped. Didn't like big institutions sell anyway this week or today? Like BlackRock sold very, very big amounts, or at least some sellers. And I feel like a lot of people are blaming the big corporations. It could be just people selling and taking profits at these prices.
XRP holders, I think that XRP is gearing up for another rally higher, and in this video I'm going to show you the reasons why. I'm going to talk about the exact price targets and support to hold right now, because we are seeing some volatility to the downside. I also want to talk about HBAR very briefly, because I'm spotting a very interesting statistic here, and I want to show you some other stuff as well in this quick video. So let's get straight into it. Don't forget to like the video, of course, and let's talk about
So yeah, I was kind of worried why XRP has dumped so much. I feel like that's pretty normal.
XRP first.
Like, especially, we are still kind of above $3, $2.9. We're still above that support level, which is not the worst case scenario. Yes, it is bad, but just being at this factor is usually people are going to take profits, especially at 120,000 Bitcoin when they waited 3 years for this.
Something that looks like a bullish continuation pattern. So let me actually share my projected price targets with you. If we take the entire length of this, you could say flagpole, and if we project this trend line to the potential breakout point for XRP, so somewhere around this, then you can see that the target is somewhere around $5 for XRP, and that is not just a random number, because if we look at some Fibonacci confluence here, if we take this entire length of this flagpole and if we project this Fibonacci extension tool to the lowest point currently, then you can also see some key resistance levels here.
So yeah, this is the resistance level I've been calling $3.8, which means a lot of people want to sell their XRP for $3.8. Now, this is a big problem, right? Because we got to 3.66, but we are unable to breach 3.8. So how are we supposed to breach $7? It's going to take multiple hype waves. It's going to take multiple hype cycles to actually get to there.
On the chart, do note that I'm right now on the log chart, but if we go to the linear time scale, then you can see that there will be most likely some resistance between $4 and $5 for XRP. If we go to log back again, you can also see $4.50 to $5. So that is the key area of resistance that we need to watch here. If you're invested in XRP. From our current position, that is a pretty lucrative price move.
I would be very worried if it drops below $2. This is when, my personal opinion is when I would get 100% like, wow, this is really bad. Because this is when really the institutions don't want it, the retail doesn't want it. So who wants it? No one.
Because we are talking about a move to the upside of about almost 70%, which is absolutely massive, of course. Another interesting thing, if we sketch out a trend line from the highest point of January to this current low point here, then what we don't want to see is actually a break below this trend line for XRP. If that happens, we could see bearish continuation, but for now we're still holding above this trend line. And for your reference, this trend line sits at approximately, let me show you. So if we do this, then you can see that this trend line, and let me give this another color. Let me make this green. You can see that this trend line is coming in play with the 0.5 Fibonacci level at $2.64 roughly for XRP. So this is the key area to hold. You can also see that we got a perfect rejection point here on the 12th of May. Also here, massive rejections. We couldn't close above this.
So this is what I've been calling, guys. 2.65, even though we did not hit 2.65 at that time, it still, went for another rally, which is not that worrying. So I feel like for the next few weeks, it's going to go sideline until we see another run. At least that's what it's showing at. Could be same patterns, in my opinion, as we saw here. A lot of people were talking same point at here, 2.65. And I personally thought, wow, this is really high price, and I feel like a lot of people took profit and then went ahead and doubled down.
In December of last year, we broke above it eventually, but we couldn't hold above 264. So 264 is definitely a key area to hold for XRP. We could see a retest in a worst case scenario from our current position. That could be a potential drop to the downside of another 10 to 11%. So just keep that in mind if you're currently invested in XRP. But as long as we're holding a...
So yeah, 10% down, that's when it's really bad, 2.27, which would still not be that bad. That would be like 33% down from $3. So even if it goes to what 2.27 from here to here, I mean, this lines, look at this green chart, right? This green chart tells you everything. We're still not doing bad. But if we went back to like $1, that would be devastating. But look at this. We even retained the full green candle here and managed to get another one. And people are saying like it's down from 3.66 to $3. You got to look out the big picture. Like this candle we retained, this candle we retained. So it's possible some of these whales did not take any profit here are probably going to take profit at least maybe the first candle or second candle, which is what, $2.9, $2.75. They're like, I'm out, you know, like this is good enough. From 40 cents in 1 year to $3.
Above this area, I'm still in favor of continuation to the upside here in the short term. You can also see that here from a different perspective. We had this very nice compression pattern. We broke out. We're right now forming another compression on the weekly time frame, and we are literally in the last weekly candle. So this week, latest next week, we should see the decision to the upside most likely for XRP. So keep that in mind. And guys, if you want to take advantage of this huge opportunity,
so yeah, still seemingly strong. Now what I'm wondering is his prediction here. XRP percent supply and profit. So still 93% supply and profit, which 93% of people in profit means people are happy, but it also means that some people might further sell.
Fall from 98.2% to roughly 93% right now, and that means that fewer people holding XRP are right now in profits, and that is actually a bullish thing because when everyone is in profits, the price typically doesn't go any higher. So this is actually a good thing, and I want to see this number going even lower. So let's see.
I mean, I don't fully agree with that because literally how the economics work is when people are 100% in profit, is called price discovery, right? So look at Bitcoin. If it would never hit over 100% supply and profit, that means it would be always stuck at $1 or like 9.99 cents for Bitcoin. At some point, there's going to be more buyers and everybody in crypto, everybody with XRP is going to be in profit. That's what happened many, many times. But it's like 93% right now. It used to be what, 95%? Because we're also looking at the last bull run since 2017.
How this will develop. Another interesting metric is that short-term XRP wallets grew from 5.8% to 9.3% in just 2 weeks. So basically the people who bought XRP in the past 3 months, they're heavily buying the dip right now, and it almost doubled, as I said, from 5.8 to almost 10% in just 2 weeks. So this is also very interesting that most likely
so retail is down again, like it has dipped a bit, which also correlates with the price. Seemingly August, September are not like September could be the one that, you know, people are hyped for because Bitcoin could be having a new bull market support band, which means a new top for Bitcoin, which means XRP will follow.
Retail is currently still buying XRP here around $3. Another, I would say, more concerning metric is actually on the Google Trends indicator with search term XRP. If we focus on worldwide in the past 12 months, then we can see that we're currently sitting at 46.
We're still not at all-time high even, 46. We're basically like half of the community and half of the buyers are interested in XRP right now. Not fully 100% yet.
But what is key to note here is that we are actually forming lower highs. Since the high point from December, when there was a lot of retail interest, we're only seeing lower highs right now, while the price, in fact, since December formed a higher high. You can clearly see that over here. This was the wick. This was actually December. You can clearly see higher highs on the price, but lower highs on the Google Trends indicator. So this is actually a bearish thing. This means that retail is not as interesting.
Even in Bitcoin, the retail is not yet back. So it is a slightly bearish that we go down price short term, but XRP reaching from 40 cents to $3 without retail, where in 2021 it needed retail to go up, is actually bullish. Because it means like a lot of people still haven't discovered XRP. It means potential is higher. Let's say like XRP reaches $6 and everybody in the world bought XRP, right? Means why would they get XRP now? It doesn't make any sense, like, because it's gonna go down if everybody in the world already bought it unless they bought more. But here right now, without retail, it means the potential for it to go higher is much, much higher, if you get what I'm saying.
In altcoins, it always happens. You can look it up. This index is completely for free, but right now 53, so there's still massive room for at least.
It seems like we're still waiting in August, and then seeing another bull run rally would be definitely very nice. Leverage pressure eases, whales gobble up supply. So whales are secretly buying while we are crying. Guys, smash that like button if you haven't already. We do have more news about the whales getting in.
This hasn't really...
I've been calling whales are buying supplies, and people who are saying that institutions are selling, don't believe them, because it's not institutions, it's literally people that buy crypto through them. They are forced to sell their crypto because people are cashing out.
Been a surprising start to the week. Mondays over the past several weeks have been kind of ugly and red. We've dealt with a lot of pressure from external forces here as well. But we're waiting for that confidence and clarity to re-enter the market once again. But there is something that is actually working in XRP's favor just a little bit. We are actually seeing leverage pressure ease. And I want to talk about this with you guys. This is good for assets. But we also need to discuss a 5-month high that has just been hit for XRP as well. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So I will say, today has actually started off on a good note for XRP. No, not good because it's red. Red sucks. I'm thinking we're all tired of seeing red, right?
XRP has been not seeing red like 2022, 2023, 2024 has been much, much worse for XRP than it is right now.
But we have seen most assets do this. The overseas money has done.
Might not see a major price action till October. Yeah, it's very possible it won't see anything until October. I think we will see movements in September. Like, at least the market indicators are showing that September could be going for Bitcoin, which means XRP will follow. And there's a lot of good news in September that will push it as well.
On some selling that started us off on a red candle day, despite U.S. money actually buying things back up as the day progressed yesterday. And I will say that XRP did a very good job of bouncing off of its 50-day moving average and showing some strength there. And right now, it's one of few assets that has not set a lower low in today's daily candle. So that is a very promising sign. And this isn't really surprising based on some of the data I'm going to give you guys. Now, I will say again, like we talked about, that stochastic RSI on the daily has moved all the way back down into this oversold range. We've almost hit a perfect zero on the stochastic RSI itself. And so we're waiting to see if things are going to turn themselves around as the day progresses. I did actually put a fib retracement on here just so we have some idea of levels. Right now, we're trying to get back up to our 7.0 level. Understand that we do have the potential of running down to our 6.18.
I feel like it will go lower because right now it has gotten the rallies. People have calmed down a bit. The markets have calmed down. Nothing shows it's going to go to $4 this month. But once people come back to trading, buying, once the hype comes back in September, November, October, whatever you want to call it, that is when we could be really seeing that price potential. It's still very early to say, but nothing shows me the indicators that we're immediately going to pump to 3.66. It does seem like it's going to go up and down here. It's going to have a downturn or up.
Right now, we just need some overall confidence in the crypto market. We're waiting for BTC to try to make a move back up. We're waiting for Ethereum to try to get a nice bounce here, which it is slightly. So that's at least working in our favor. But we have to flip around institutional money. Yesterday was a big institutional sell day for both BTC and Ethereum.
I feel like it's not institutions just selling unless they're taking profit. It's literally people using the institutions and they are cashing out. So a lot of people say institutions are selling. No, it's not the institutions. It's just the people who are using these institutions to buy crypto.
And so now it's a question of, can retail do enough to buy these dips and create just a little bit more green in the chart? So we'll have to watch and wait and see what happens there. Now, something I did want to mention in terms of XRP that I talked about in my earlier video today is that we actually just hit a 5-month high. What this is transactions by whales, the 50-day moving average.
That's what I've been telling you guys. The whales are secretly buying.
This actually just hit a 5-month high. So this is transactions that are $100,000 or more. And so you are actually seeing whales become incredibly active right now. This has happened for ADA. This has happened for XRP. I talked about this obviously in my ADA video. And that is a very good sign, because what we are seeing from XRP whale holdings is them actually on the rise. So they are taking advantage of these dips that we're getting in the market. They're having a lot of confidence because, again, we're still waiting for a potential XRP spot ETF approval that might be coming in the not so distant future. I think we're still obviously waiting for crypto legislation to get those approvals. So hopefully Congress or the Senate can get this approved.
Like, isn't the Clarity Act literally the thing that would push retail? This is the thing I'm hoping for. The Clarity Act, again, is not that far off, potentially like 1-2 months away.
Passed in September, so we can just accelerate right into a new era in the crypto market, right? Now, what I will say is actually working in XRP's favor just a little bit here is that leverage pressure has eased significantly. If you guys remember, we were at a very strong short imbalance just the other day. We've actually climbed up to now just about a 3% imbalance to the short side, which is consistent with many assets in the crypto market. But what I'm more so focused on is actually the amount of open interest there is in terms of XRP.
So yeah, more people are placing the bets because they know something big is coming, guys. Don't forget, more of these whales are coming into the market. They understand something is about to change. That's why they are going so big on XRP right now, especially with trading. Maybe not with price, but these swings are good for traders, like up and down prices, which is a very good indicator that XRP could be moving forward. Open interest, it's called, because you can either say that XRP will go down or it will go up.
Actually seen this fall in just a few days from actually 8.7 some billion dollars down to 7.81. So almost a 13% decrease in that time. And because of now this ratio that we're seeing, it's shorts that have been closing their positions, which is a very good sign. They're getting less confident the lower XRP price gets. So what you're seeing is actually the shorts are being smart in terms of XRP. Usually,
like, the whales are now taking profit and having that easy money, like just slightly.
You will see them actually kind of pile on top of things when the market is dropping. But I should have had this pulled up. But what we're actually seeing is shorts kind of ease up just a little bit. Doesn't mean that shorts are running away. Doesn't mean that we don't have any short interest or anything like that sitting above XRP, because there still is. And excuse me, you're going to see that on the charts here. You still have this big bulk of short interest right at about $3.10. So if XRP gets on a run here, it can liquidate some shorts to the upside. But the uncertainty is there for the bears as well as it is the bulls. So we're basically returning back to a place of essentially equilibrium in the market, if that makes sense. We still just need some more confidence from the market. Again, things out.
I feel like here is where really the whales or the bulls are going to be opening positions if the price goes up or down. They aren't even sure themselves what is going to happen, right? That is why so many liquidations happened a few days ago, just yesterday. Look at how many liquidations dropped. So they're waiting for that big hit.
That's promising. Also, again, remember, Jackson Hole is taking place on Friday. That's when the Fed is going to be speaking. Maybe we get some insight from that. Maybe we don't. But that's what we need to pay attention to.
So there is still a ton of opportunities even for these whales to make money. It is not even looking bad for these whales. They haven't given up on XRP yet. They're coming back potentially October or the months that they wish. XRP holders, it's not going to happen. So yeah, maybe in 1 to 2 months, XRP, whales will be coming back from their vacation and their shorts or longs will pay off. I'm guessing longs, right? They are opening positions right now. So XRP holders, it's not going to happen.
Hey, XRP family, how you doing? We're going to talk about something that's not going to happen to us as XRP holders. And this is a good news thing. I realize the title probably might have spooked you a little bit. You're like, oh my God, what's not going to happen, Austin? So I was doing some reading earlier this morning and kind of taking a look. And I look at a lot of XRP content, a lot of XRP news, but I also look at stuff that's going on with Bitcoin. And I look at what is playing out there.
XRP has been doing good, has been doing better than Bitcoin. But for the markets to really push right now, we need Bitcoin's help. We need Bitcoin to grow, right? If we want to see XRP go to maybe $4, we are really dependent on Bitcoin right now.
in the the larger markets, right? And so there's something that I kind of want to share with you, and this is a scenario that we're always, as crypto holders, as XRP holders, Ethereum, Bitcoin, what have you. I think one thing in the back of our mind is always, what is the worst case scenario? What is the price of XRP going to be in a month? And is it going to go down? Is there a lot of downside risk, move down potential in the next month, 2 months, and by the end of 2025? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, but we're going to talk about it in the context of the...
I feel like the worst case scenario is like XRP goes to $2 and then it hits a free fall in that sense.
Overall market, okay?
Like just goes to steadily falling down.
And kind of what's playing out. And so what I want to share with you, and this is good news, is right here. Bitcoin price settles at 115,000 after Trump Zelensky meeting. OKBI's new all-time high, market watch, so forth. But it's really this Trump Zelensky and the 115,000, and this is Bitcoin. And yes, I know this is an XRP video, but you cannot ignore what is playing out and what will play out in the overall larger market and the risk or lack of it associated with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and how it's going to impact XRP in the next.
Yeah, so the thing, you guys, if you don't know, when we're talking about Bitcoin and XRP price on this channel, it's because they're very like Bitcoin and Ethereum prices, they're very correlated with XRP. So if XRP, goes up, it doesn't mean Bitcoin will go up. But if Bitcoin goes up, it is very likely XRP will go down, and vice versa as well.
Next month or so. Said a different way, if Bitcoin drops to $80,000 per coin, don't you think that's going to bleed over and impact XRP?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's been like that for many years until XRP will be fully a utility token and like independent and going public with a Ripple IPO. And maybe we're going to move like when Ripple gets really big. I'm talking like big as Bitcoin right now, 1 to 2 trillion. I really feel like it is not going to be any different than, Bitcoin's prices because the market cap is so low. It's same as NVIDIA, right? The whole market.
If you don't, I'd love some of what you're smoking
like
because that's 100% going to happen. And that's really my point. So the point here is we've got a little bit of risk out there, but we're going to talk about how much it's going to impact your XRP here in just a minute. Okay, before I move on, look, links in the description below. Go get my free wealth strategies newsletter. It's going to help you generate more wealth, more profits. The low.
So look at this. The lowest point we can go with XRP, in my opinion, is about $1 to $2 here. I don't think it's going to go below the $1, but in the crypto bear markets, anything could happen.
Lowest low that we're going to see for Bitcoin's 100,000, and right now we're at 115,000. In essence, we're not going to drop below 100,000, which is the good news scenario. And that's impact on XRP is that by default, because XRP will move if Bitcoin were to drop dramatically. If we don't see Bitcoin drop below 100,000, we don't have a lot of downside.
I think it's going to be also really hard for Bitcoin to drop below 100K. I wouldn't be surprised in crypto, but actually to go to 100K is it's going to be hard, right? We just got here. Like some sort of a bear market scenario needs to happen to for XRP to go from $1, and also some sort of bull market scenario needs to happen for XRP to go to $4, right? So either scenario is okay with me.
Side risk for XRP. Said a different way, kind of what we see right now is the worst case scenario from a low standpoint of where we're going to be. This is good news. Okay, because
I feel like the lowest case scenario would be like $1. That's when even like institutions are like, we don't want it. Retail would be like, we don't want it. Nobody would want XRP. That's the worst case scenario.
You need to be aware of, and you need to look at what is my risk out there or lack thereof, being an XRP holder, an XRP investor, or being a Cardano investor or an Ethereum investor, what have you. And this is important, which is why I wanted to make this video, because it may not be the way you look at it. You may just get up and look at your XRP every day and go, okay, I'm good there. Okay, yep, I'm fine, and move on with your day. And that's okay. And that's basically why you would subscribe to somebody like me. Hopefully you will, here on YouTube or on X, because I'm looking at many more different facets. I'm talking to people who do a lot of technical analysis, things of that nature. And the overall consensus is Bitcoin's not going to go below 100,000. In fact, it's going to go up.
That's what I was saying,
by
guys.
the end of 2025.
I mean, the biggest issue is everybody's calling that Bitcoin, XRP, ETH will grow above 225,000. By the end of 2025. What am I saying today? By the end of 2025, we were calling for XRP to reach all-time highs. But how does everybody know that? They can look, the factors. Why, if people are so certain we are going to maybe $6 XRP, why don't they open longs or buy the whole XRP supply, right? It's not 100% certain. And we've also seen in markets where people were calling, hey, September for XRP is going to be great. And guess what? XRP dropped below, $1 or 50 cents at that time. It might be the same.
Minimum 150, all the way to possibly 200,000 per Bitcoin, okay? And we don't have a lot of downside risk associated with Bitcoin. And thus, we don't have a lot of downside risk associated with XRP. Some of you will challenge me in the comments and say, XRP has nothing to do with Bitcoin, things of that nature. I actually disagree. Bitcoin is 59% of the entire crypto market capitalization is Bitcoin. I'm here to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. Where Bitcoin goes, that number right there, 59% Bitcoin. So that number, 2,277 billion, is 59% of 3,860 billion. Don't believe me? Do the math. Okay. Where Bitcoin goes, the rest of crypto follows. It does. Yes, the XRP has its own catalyst. It has its own market movement scenarios that play out, but crypto follows Bitcoin. If you don't believe it,
that's what I've been telling you guys. But we don't know what will happen in end of 2025. Could be literally anything.
Is true as well. As we see Bitcoin go to 150, 200,000, if XRP were to have no other catalyst on its own, which it will, strategic acquisitions, partnerships, ETF, things of this nature.
That's the most bullish factor. Like the Crypto Clarity Act, the US has announced that they will not be holding or buying any XRP with the taxpayers' money, which was kind of bearish news. I feel like maybe like 20-30% of that trigger might also, push crypto in that way.
XRP will go up alongside of it to $4, $5, $6, $7, $10 or more by the end of 2025. And that's really it. Okay. So not a lot of downside risk. It's not going to happen. We're not going to see XRP drop dramatically. Now, of course, some of you go, well, it could drop 250. Is that a possibility? Sure.
That is a possibility, but why are these whales buying at $3? Just think about it.
There could be, if we see Bitcoin go down to 100,000, there could be a little of a market run, but we're not going to drop into like the 50-cent range or probably even below $2. It's just simply.
It's just that people won't, want to sell it. If they bought it even like for $3, why would they sell it for 50 cents? Like the people don't need to sell it at a loss right now in this market economics.
Is not really in the cards outside of some major horrific global event. That's where we're at. Okay. So I just wanted to share this with you and just kind of let you guys know. All right. So look, if you want to help make any more money in crypto, I've got a piece of software.
So yeah, momentum up here, momentum down. Awesome stuff. But yeah, I definitely feel like even a few bad days for crypto are not going to stop XRP in that sense. So we do have another one, major XRP price prediction. Will it take off from here? Look at this, guys. So major XRP price prediction. Could XRP hit $5 this year? I would be very happy. But to hit $5, we are still a long path ahead.
XRP family, how you doing? We're going to talk about what is going to be happening with XRP, an XRP price prediction where we could see XRP dramatically bounce from where it's currently trading at. And we can take a look right now. As of the recording of the video, XRP is down about 4% below that.
Which isn't that big of a problem in the current market. being 4% down is not that scary at all, in my opinion.
Sub $3. It is right now, again, as of the recording, bouncing between that $2.95 and $3 range. And you can see on the 24-hour, we have, again, wicked down to that $2.95 range. And now we're at that $3, again, as of the recording of the video. So for an XRP price prediction, I want to talk about what we're seeing kind of play out. I'm going to share with you here in just a minute. We've seen XRP kind of bounce down, and a lot of the technical analysis underpinning data points are actually coming in line. It looks like this could be our bottom for XRP in this 295 range as we continue to see it now bounce off of that and go up. And a little bit of this is relative to what's going on with Bitcoin as well. So let's dive into this XRP prediction, XRP price prediction, and take a look at it. Before I let you do that, or we see that, links in the description below. Go sign up for my free newsletter. It helps you generate crypto. It's that
So look at this. XRP reaches $3 support perfectly. What's next? I expect it dropped into a retracement level. Why are people selling now at $3 and why are whales buying it? I feel like it's just a small part of the whales selling because a lot of them have sold at 3.66. And it's been 3-4 weeks since that. So why are they still selling at $3 is something I don't understand.
Support. Remember, we saw XRP bounce down. You can see it even right here where this circle is right there. Let me move that. Chart right there over where you can see it. We're talking about this little dip right here.
So this dip doesn't scare me nearly enough because if you go zoom out here, you can still see the green candles from, $3.
If you want to read everything that Cassie's written, please do so. Okay. I want to keep this video.
I analyze each asset to its own chart. XRP already reached and is holding support. Bitcoin has it. XRP does not mirror Bitcoin. So yeah, this is going differently, and it's not even alt season yet. I feel like a lot of people are still waiting for alt season, which is another thing people are waiting for. Alt season, which XRP needs to join in or will join in, has potentially, XRP just went on its own path this year. It has not followed Bitcoin. It has not followed its other altcoins. When Bitcoin was down, XRP went up.
Minute and 1 hour RSI, and the wave down printed a clean 5 wave. Again, bold. This adds to the idea that this was the bottom the market was hunting for XRP. Okay. So from an XRP price prediction, she's basically saying, hey, look, looks like this is the bottom, right? And outside of some major thing out there
so this is a support level where whales keep buying at $3. So that is good. Whales keep buying at this price point is definitely very bullish. They're keeping the support band up.
Negative that I always like to, because I'm a glass half full guy, but there are bigger things out there. What's Jay Powell going to say in his Jackson Hole speech? What's going to come out of President Trump and the Putin, Alaska summit, et cetera, right? Are we going to see Zelensky with the Ukraine stuff? We're going to see some resolution there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Tariffs. These are all bigger factors that could impact us. But regardless, we're looking at this kind of, again, I'm giving you guys some numbers so that you know what's playing out here. Okay. So XRP may linger here for a little bit, she's saying. Again, I agree. And then now she moves on and she's talking about the fact of analyzing XRP versus Bitcoin.
I mean, I feel like if we want to get, XRP to drop, a whale would have to sell a very big portion and break that support level of 2.96 cents.
Okay, so Bitcoin right now, again, Bitcoin is 59% of the entire crypto market capitalization is Bitcoin. Where it goes, the rest shall follow. So she talks about the fact that Bitcoin, she sees it bouncing down to 112, and that's the bottom for Bitcoin. And she doesn't think that it's going to drag XRP down much more.
And August is also expected to drop anyway. So if August is getting bad, it's not that worse, really. Like if this was October and we were down, that would be 10 times worse.
Or it'll drag some of the other altcoins, probably like Ethereum, some of the other major altcoins like Cardano, so forth. Okay. But she's saying Cassie's analysis from Cassie Trades over on X. Love what she does. Okay. So I'm definitely thinking that we've got some good stuff coming. Got a little bit of volatility in the short term, I think, as we see Bitcoin bounce down, as we see things kind of play out right now. But again, I think we're looking good, and I think we'll bounce off this and head back. Okay. So that's what we got for you. As always, I appreciate you giving me a few minutes. Links are in the trend.
So is 296 really going to be a bottom? Because Again, a worst case scenario would be a whale sells everything and a wave 2 bounce toward 120 to 122K without a new high. Wave 2 remains valid unless a new high prints. She's saying like 120K support. Again, but there are so many factors. A lot of the times when we see price predictions like this, immediately the next week we see a drop and this whole price prediction invalidates. I'm expecting XRP and other large caps to push to new highs targeting $4.8. So $4.2 is the big support level that we have to break through. It's a big problem to hit $4.8 if you have like a big wall of supply at $4.2. And the structure of Bitcoin's Wave 2 should help our confidence corrective on Bitcoin while impulsive upsides resumes on XRP. Guys, what do you think about this? I personally feel like that we are still far way ahead from $4.2, but I will keep you guys updated. And if you want more content like this, smash that like button. And yeah, that's all for today. I love you all. And I'll be stopping the stream right now. I'll be getting some rest. Check out my other videos on my channel. Thank you so much. Love you all and peace, everyone. Feeling a bit tired.